Atari and also Ralph Baer, working for Parker Brothers at the time, came out with Simon, and these were released Toy Fair 1978. Was it?
I think it was later. I think it was 79 or 80.
Okay. Like I said, it was a little loose on the timing, but I remember this was noteworthy at the time. And then when Ralph Baer came out with something very similar, but a different form factor.
Right.
Scott, here's the big question I want to ask you to ask Nolan.
Okay.
I'm going to introduce him in a couple minutes.
Sure.
What should the audience know about him?
I know from time to time I hear how Steve Wozniak and
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs worked at Atari in the early days.
Right.
Trying to get
was Steve Jobs kind of a hard-managed person?
Not for me. You know, people ask me that all the time, and I actually found Steve to be charming and interesting, and we became good friends. I never saw the evil Steve Jobs, not once.
Sure.
How old was he?
He started, I think he was late 19, early 20s.
So he was young.
Very young.
And I'm not sure if I remember this correctly, that Wozniak was paid something like $100 per chip he could remove from your board to make it cheaper.
Correct.
All right.
So you were.
Steve Jobs was.
Steve Jobs
didn't necessarily see that.
So you were into exploiting children back then.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, if I could get a lot of work, well, it turns out that Wozniak wasn't officially on the payroll. So, but I knew that if I hired Jobs, that I got Wozniak for free, and so it was really two for the price of one.
You got two for the price of one.
Yeah, and it was. Chips were really expensive back then, so everyone you could remove from your board was just extra pocket money. You know, you were leaving it on the table if you kept the chips in.
Now today you're going to tell us about Brain Rush, which is the next thing, right?
Yeah.
And these guys are from Brain Rush, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to tell us about it.
Yes, but you know the thing you need to know is that we believe that the world, if education can be fixed, becomes a really different place. And kids, if they're learning fast, they think it's fun. And I think that we can bring enthusiasm and happiness and passion back into a lot of kids who have basically tuned out and dropped out. And that's really our goal. Think of four years of academic learning compressed into 6 months. Think of all the time now that we can teach other skills, digital skills, creativity, passion.
The cynic is going to ask you, Nolan, that a lot of people believe this. You've done a great job with video games and pizza. What do you know about education?
I have 8 children.
Okay.
Well, a lot of people think of me as a businessman and a game guy, and that I always think of myself as a scientist. And I try to go down the rabbit hole of being a technologist in all things. And I think that you can apply technology to the way you run a business. I think you can apply technology to the way you run a pizza parlor. I think you can apply technology in massive quantities to school, to the whole issue of education.
Well, I always say you can judge a guy by his shoes, and I'm just going to pan down here and say, I think there's hope in your business plan, Mr. Bushnell. And so...
Well, one of the nice things about getting a little older is that you decide, I'm going to be comfortable.
That's right.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. That's called wisdom.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I was looking forward to your talk today.
Thank you.
Scott, any
Same
last
here.
any
No,
last
I'm
questions?
looking forward to it as well. Thank you very much for everything, Nolan.
Well, have fun.
Yeah.